We discussed value creation in our last class. We discussed capitals. Today we will do the third fundamental concept, the value creation process. So let's resume where we left out in the last class. We discussed these 6 types of capitals, the sources a business has. Let us discuss them again. Financial capital means the pool of funds, the money we receive by issuing shares, bonds, taking bank loans. Manufactured capital means the assets we hold, property, plant and equipment, not what we hold, maybe not in our ownership, like roads, infrastructure, airports, etc. They are all manufactured capital. Intellectual capital means licenses, patents, copyrights. Human capital means your competent staff. Then we discussed about the social and relationship capital. That means the good relationship you have with your stakeholders, bankers, your shareholders, your customers, your suppliers. Yes, including infrastructure, exactly. So remember, all these capital, they are sources. So not necessarily you own them. They are not yours, but they are used by, like we don't own roads, we don't own airports, but we use them for our business, right? And then finally, the last one, the natural capital. Natural capital means the renewable and non-renewable resources, land, all the natural endowments, air, mineral, water. So some businesses that are associated with nature, so they are greatly affected, like a hotel industry. It is greatly affected by the natural capital. So the above capitals, as we discussed in our previous class, they are fluid. They keep on changing. Our business can get influenced by these sources, of course, and it also influences these sources. We'll discuss these as we go along. And then finally, the last is the value creation process. And please note, remember, when you are preparing your integrated report, I shared a detailed integrated report with you in our WhatsApp group. These are the 6 capitals a business uses. Not all of them. Not every capital is present in every integrated report. Some of them are relevant to you, some of them are not. Like for FTC, natural capital is irrelevant because our business or our activities, they do not depend upon the natural capital, right? So an integrated report doesn't need to use all these 6 capital. Just take those that are relevant to your business. Now the last area is the value creation process. Let us first see the process. This is how it looks like. This is the value creation process. A business takes in different types of inputs. Input means the material. Input means the financial capital, money, manufactured capital, roads, dams, ports. Intellectual capital, you use software, you use patents, licenses, you use effort by your staff, competent staff, loyal staff. You use good relationship with your bankers, with your customers, with your suppliers, and maybe if your business get influenced with nature, you are associated with them. These are inputs. These inputs are used by the business, and we perform certain business activities. Business activities are our different processes that will transform these inputs into outputs. Inputs are these different sources we use. Business activities are the activities that will transform these inputs into outputs. Now, what are outputs? Outputs are the end result of your business activity. It could be a product, if you are a manufacturer. It could be a service, like FTC is providing you a service. Or as a result of your business activity, there might be certain wastages and byproducts. We will discuss about byproducts and waste later in our cost management section D, unit 7, inshallah. And these outputs, whatever you have produced, products, services, byproduct, waste, these outputs will affect these 6 capitals. Outcomes doesn't mean outputs. Remember, outcomes are the effects. Outcomes are the internal and external effects of your outputs. As a result of your business activity, financial capital may increase if you have been able to generate profit for the business. So your business activities will transform these inputs into outputs, and these outputs will influence, it will have influence on these different capitals that we used. Now, not all of them will be affected. Now, if you just compare the color, look at this. Here we have light blue color, but if our business is successful, we will be able to increase financial capital. We'll be able to reward our investors. We will be able to pay our interest to the bondholders. We will be able to pay interest and principal to the banker. Right? If business has been successful, business will be able to purchase more property, plant and equipment, more vehicles, more furniture fixtures. Right? Business may be able to generate more patents, will be able to purchase more licenses, more patents, so on and so forth. So you can see that the business process, business activity will transform inputs into outputs, and these outputs will cause some outcomes. It will have some effects, and they might increase, they might change your capital. Not all of them will increase. Now, for example, let's say, if you, a very odd example, please excuse me, I couldn't come up with a good example at this moment. Let's say your business produces narcotics like chars, Salman. Let's say if you are a manufacturer of narcotic item. This will generate profit for you, right? Your financial capital will go up, but its outcome on the society, your social relationship with the society will deteriorate, right? And you are also generating a negativity, a negative externality. Your human capital will be affected. So whatever your product or service is, it will have some outcomes, and these outcomes will influence it. It will influence the capitals that you use. Some of them might increase, some of them might decrease, some of them might transform, right? So this is what you call the value creation process, and that's how it works. I think this completes your unit 6.2. Let us do a few questions to hammer in the concept we have just learned. Question number 1. The fundamental concept defined by the International Integrated Reporting Council are value creation, yes, how the benefits are created by the business activity. Value creation process, we just learned how the inputs, resources, sources, capitals are transformed through business activity into the output and its outcomes on the 6 capitals. And then finally 6 that's absolutely true. This is correct. Value creation, 6 capital, and the value creation process. So this is the right option. Now, why not BCD should have good reason for rejection? Business activity, it is one of the value creation process. Value creation process discussed, yes. Materiality, no. The fundamental concepts are 3: value creation process, and the 6 capital. 6 capital is one of the fundamental concepts. Business model, no. External environment, no. No, no, no. So that makes A to be the correct option. And I think this one is a different question, but is asking somewhat the similar thing. The fundamental concepts of integrated reporting as defined by IIRC are the 6 capitals, yes. The value creation process, yes. Materiality, no. Value creation, yes. Value creation process, yes. 6 capitals, yes. These are the 3 fundamental concepts. 6 capitals, yes. Value creation process, yes. Not business model. External environment, business model, materiality, no. So that makes B to be the correct option. Just it was a revision, the repetitive question. Which statement about the value creation process is false? So make sure you are careful. What is the exact requirement of the question? False. We are looking for a false statement. Let's go and read each and every one. Value creation is one of the 3 fundamental concepts of integrated reporting. Absolutely right. This is true. Value creation process, value creation, and 6 capital. These are the fundamental concepts in integrated reporting. It's true. Because externalities of value creation do not affect organization, they should not be included in the integrated report. Wrong. Externalities must be reported. Your business gets affected by external factors. You affect external environment. So externality is a very much integral part of your integrated report. So you cannot ignore it. We'll discuss, Salman, just a minute. So we cannot ignore externalities. So this is false. Value created for others that is considered material should be included in integrated report. Yes. If you have business has created a benefit that is material for others, not for the business itself, it must be reported in integrated report. That's a correct, true statement. Value is created both for the organization as well as for its external environment. Yes, you just don't create benefit for your organization, you create benefit for the external environment, for the society, for the different stakeholders. This is true as well. So the incorrect statement is B. What is not one of the 6 capitals defined in the integrated reporting framework? Intellectual capital is there. Social and relationship capital is there. Your good relationship with your stakeholders, yes, it's there. Manufactured capital is there, but there is no such thing as environmental capital. Natural capital is there, but this is a wrong term. Environmental capital, this is not the term we use for the natural resources. So that's why A is not one of the 6 capitals. Which statement about the capitals is false? The capitals can decrease, true. Capitals can increase, true. Capitals can be transformed due to the regular course of business. Yes, the 6 capitals or some of them which we deploy in our business model, it will either increase, some of them might decrease, and some of them might transform from one to another, right? So this is a true statement. We are looking for the one that is false. Value can be created in any of the 6 capitals and it is not necessarily measured in financial capital. Yes, it could be natural capital, it could be social capital, it could be any of these 6. So not always money. Do not measure everything in money. So this is true. An integrated report does not have to be structured along the 6 capitals. Yes, you can take on any of these that are relevant to your business, right? So not all of them are to be reported. So this is true. Then the incorrect statement must be the last one, D. Every organization should address the 6 capitals. No, only take on those that are relevant for your business. You don't need to disclose or you don't need to report all the 6 capitals. So yes, D is right, and I think it's again a repetition. Same question here. Every organization should address 6 capitals. This is not right. Question number 7. A company's social license to operate is the result of, we discussed this concept in detail in our last class. Social license to operate means when you have good relationship with your customers, your suppliers, your bankers. If you are doing good, you're not doing anything illegal, you are making payments of interest and principal on time to your banker, you are making interest payment to your bondholders, and you are reporting fairly to your shareholders, you are providing value for money to your customers, you are making payment to your suppliers on time, absolutely you have the right to run the business. You have the license to operate. So this license to operate is the result of outcomes of interaction with the customers, with the suppliers, with the shareholders. Yes, it makes much more sense. Financial return to the providers, that's just one aspect. 6 elements of capital, no. Company's outlook, no. It's the result of outcomes of interaction with your different stakeholders. That's what gives you the license to operate, your social license to operate. Otherwise, your business will be undesirable. It might be liquidated. The court might order to wind your business up because you did not pay the interest on time and you defaulted in the payment to your suppliers. Maybe you didn't pay the principal to your banker. So you will be in trouble. You do not have the license. You should kill yourself. You should close your business. Which of the following is included in the integrated report? A. Social and relationship capital, but not negative externalities. Whether externalities are positive or negative, they both must be included. It's an incorrect statement. Only financial, manufactured and intellectual capital. Why not natural capital? Why not human capital? I'm sure you would have gone through that integrated report. It's a fantastic integrated report, and you would have seen that they have given all the 6 capitals, their details, how they train their employees, how they have maintained good relationship with their customers. A fantastic report. Just go through it fleetingly. You don't need to read it all, but this is a very good report there. So this is incorrect as well. Material value created for others and externalities. And externalities, as we discussed, can be positive as well as negative. So that's true. That makes sense. Value created for the company and not for the external environment. Why? Your business is a part of the society. You cannot consider your business as if it's being operated in a closed box. You are a part of the social fabric. What you do affects many people, and many factors from external environment, they affect your business. So since you are a part of this external environment, you are a part of the social fabric. So it's not just inward looking approach. You have to report related to external environment. So this is wrong as well. So that makes C to be the correct option. C is the right option. All right. 6 capitals defined in the integrated reporting framework include environmental capital, there is no such word. Manufactured capital, yes. Environmental capital, there is no such word. Financial capital, yes. Non-financial capital, there are non-financial elements, but that's not one of the capitals. Then what? Intellectual capital, human capital, correct. That's D. D is the right answer. And finally, according to the integrated reporting framework, value creation depends on sources known as capitals. We discussed them in detail. Which of the following is true statement about the capitals? Let us weigh in and read every option. Every company should address the 6 capitals in its integrated report. Not all of them, only those capitals that are relevant for your business. The capitals are affected by the regular course of business. Yes, business takes in inputs. Through business activities, outputs are generated, and these outputs will cause some outcomes, and these outcomes will influence capital. So that's true. Capitals are affected by what a business does. So that's a true statement. Value is necessarily measured in financial capital. Not always. There are 6 capitals. We discussed that in detail. And value creation occurs only when the total of the capital increases. This is again incorrect. Some of the capitals may increase, some may decrease, and some of them might transform. So gentlemen, that completes your subunit 2. Now we have the next area, 6.3, guiding principles and content elements of integrated reporting. These are the 2 documents I've shared with you in our WhatsApp group. This is the one of the award-winning integrated report. That's the IDLC. That's basically a leasing company in Bangladesh. And the report generated, I think, in my personal capacity, it is one of the best reports I have read. So nicely worded. The graphics, the infographics, they're amazing. Please go through it just fleetingly. It's amazing. And this is what you call the international integrated reporting framework. It's a small document, less than 100 pages. So if you just could just go through it, whatever we have read so far, it is there. But I don't want you people to just waste so much of your time. Just read them fleetingly. Just skim through the pages. So now let us discuss the guiding principle and these content elements of integrated report. What are the contents of integrated report? What are the specific questions to be answered? So we are going to discuss them in detail. So what we are going to cover in this reading or in this subunit, we are going to have a quick overview. We will discuss guiding principles, overview of content elements, relationship among content elements, and finally we will have some questions on this subtopic. So let's move on, have a quick overview of guiding principles. Remember, gentlemen, this integrated reporting is a new phenomenon. This is hardly 8 years old, I told you. So still many firms, many financial accountants, professional accountants, they're a little confused. They're a little paranoid what kind of reporting it is. Shareholders only need numbers. Most of the users of financial statement, they need numbers. Income statement, balance sheet, and that should serve most of the purposes. But as we discussed yesterday, that financial reporting has a short-term focus. What we did in the last year, this is the result. What is going to happen in the future? Integrated reporting is I told you, it's forward-looking, it's futuristic. How we have transformed different capitals and how it will affect the business in the short term, medium term, and the long term. Not just short-termism. So that's the key point. So since it's a new thing, So not many firms are adopting integrated reporting. So there are challenges. There are certain challenges that when we prepare integrated report, there will be challenges. What information do we need to report? What should be the size of our report? What do you think is material, immaterial? So remember what we are doing, what we are studying now, guidelines, they are just guidelines. And as I told you, this integrated reporting does not have the force of the law. It is entirely up to you. If you want to follow, go ahead. If you don't, fine. So there is an element of flexibility. So you don't need to apply them on the rule-based approach. It's totally up to your judgment what you think you should include and what you think you should not include in your integrated report. And yes, there might be some conflicts when you are preparing your integrated report. There's a concept discussed in your textbook. Two things that move in the opposite direction. If you remain brief, if you try to be concise, you just include only the items that you think are relevant. So if you focus more on conciseness, you might sacrifice on completeness. Completeness means you have to give A to Z. So when you try to be too brief, too specific, you are giving up completeness. But when you try to be more detailed, more what you can call more elaborated, A to Z, it will not be concise. Maybe your report will be up to 1500 pages. Who will read this? People do not like to read now. They just need summaries. So this is something that moves in the opposite direction. So you have to find a trade-off that the conciseness and completeness, they are both balanced. Do not be too concise that the completeness is compromised. Do not be too detailed and too much extensive information that your information becomes too bulky to handle. So you need to strike a balance between conciseness and completeness. All right, moving on. So let us discuss the guiding principles. First guiding principle, strategic focus and future orientation. Our integrated report should show, when you're drafting your integrated report, it should show how your business will create benefit for different stakeholders, how the value would be created, and how the value would be created in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term, using the sources, the capitals we discussed in our previous slide. Connectivity of information, integration. Those who have studied mathematics, they will know integration means combining. So integrated reporting, integrated thinking, it's togetherness. Your different departments, they work in harmony, in a coordinated manner to generate the integrated report. Please go through this integrated report. You will find that this integrated report was not prepared by the finance department alone. You will see there was treasury involved, there was accounting involved, there was a massive role of research and development, human resource. See, you will see that it's a quite, I would say, a report that covers almost every aspect of the business. So that's what we are talking about. Connectivity of information regarding different functions, different departments in the organization, not just the financial results of your operations, right? You will see that they have discussed what they are likely to bring in the future to benefit their customers, how they have managed their relationship with their bankers, right? So connectivity of information, it should show a holistic view of the organization, how these factors connect together to create value for the business. Then the stakeholders relationship. Stakeholders are those individuals or firms who get affected by what a business does. Customers, suppliers, shareholders, your bankers, your regulators, your society, your external environment, the people who live nearby your business facilities, they are all somehow get affected by the business. So stakeholder relationship means how do you manage the relationship with your stakeholders? How good you have managed the relationship. Remember, we don't just need to serve our shareholders by generating more dividends on their investments. We are equally responsible to other people who somehow get affected by what we do, not just shareholders. You need to have a broader look. Successful businesses, they do not focus entirely on the shareholders. So you need to look at the fund providers, bond investors in bonds, your customers, your suppliers, your employees, children of your employees. Some companies even pay education supplements to their, I remember when I was in Saudi, Ernst & Young back then, they used to pay education supplement to their employees' children. That was good. So this is how they manage relationship with their stakeholders. Good quality relationships. Then materiality. What you should disclose and what you should not disclose doesn't mean that it is something bad. Something that you think that the investors, the stakeholders are interested in. So you need to decide a certain threshold of materiality, that what are the pieces of information you think should be disclosed and what are not important. You should not hide negative externality. You should not hide certain, let's say, certain accidents that have taken place in your business. You try to hide this. No. Disclose anything that is material, whether it is positive or negative. Whatever is material needs to be reported. Then conciseness. We just discussed that be brief, but at the same time you need to be complete also. So you just don't need to be too brief or too detailed. You have to strike a balance between conciseness and completeness. You need to give what the stakeholders are looking for, what could help them in making the right decisions, right? So you need to make a judgment what you should and what you should not include, so as to strike a balance between conciseness and the completeness. Next is reliability and completeness. See, these two things move in the opposite direction, so you have to strike a balance to what extent you want to be concise or you want to be complete. This is important. Since your external financial statements, they are audited by the auditors. Okay, so we have got clearer understanding that these two elements, they are opposite in nature. They move in the opposite direction. But unfortunately, we have to be concise and complete at the same time. Just like we have to be objective and subjective at the same time. We have to be efficient and effective at the same time. You need to strike a balance between them. This balance determination is what you call the trade-off. And I was just telling you a little while ago that since your integrated reports are not audited, because there are no standards governing the audit of integrated report, so the problem is reliability. Yes, the information that you're giving in integrated report, it may not be reliable because it has not been audited. So this is something that could be one of the weaknesses in integrated report, because they are not audited, they are not verifiable. So this could be an issue for you. And then finally, consistency and comparability. Consistency and comparability, since the non-financial factors for company A would be entirely different for company B and for Z. The 6 capitals for use for X are different. The composition of capitals for Y are different, for Z are different. So this is what could be a problem, that the results are not comparable. The integrated reports might not be comparable for firm to firm, because they may have totally different approaches of drawing up their integrated report. Capitals affect them differently, sources deployed are different, and their effects of their outputs are different. So this could be also one of the issues of integrated reporting. So these are the guiding principles. Now, the most important area, the content elements. Each integrated report should contain 9 contents. And interestingly, your integrated reporting framework, instead of giving you a checklist report, A, B, C should be there, D should be there, E should be there, instead of giving you the contents, the rule-based, I told you integrated reporting is more principle-based. It doesn't have a checklist approach. So the content elements we're going to discuss, instead of just giving you in the form of a checklist, they have given you the contents in the form of questions. Each content element, the content that you will report in your integrated report, it is given in the form of a question. Each content element is explained through a question. There would be 9 questions which the company should answer in its integrated report. Now let us discuss these questions one by one. Before the questions, let us discuss some interrelationship between these. Content elements, we will discuss 9 content elements. They are interrelated. They must be presented in some logical way. And there is no specific order. There are 9 questions and you can You can report these 9 questions in any order you want. You might report question 6 first, maybe question 9 on the second, and maybe question 1 and the last. So remember, the contents of your integrated report, they are not a checklist type of content that you need to disclose this. In fact, they are 9 questions that you need to answer in your integrated report. Let us see what these questions are and discuss them one by one. No specific order is endorsed. You can follow any sequence, any order that you find suitable. So let us discuss these 9 questions one by one. First question. This question governs the organizational overview and external environment. This is the question that you must answer in your integrated report, and of course, this will be the content of your integrated report. The question is, what does the organization do? What are the circumstances under which it operates? Clearly, this question is asking you to give your mission. Under what competitive environment are you working? What are the external environmental factors that affect you? What is the market in which you're operating? So you need to answer this question as a content of your integrated report. This is the first question, and you can give it in any order you want. The second question is how you run your business, governance. The question that you need to address in your integrated report: how does the organization governance structure support its ability to create benefit in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term? So to answer this question, you need to describe your management style. I have worked in quite diverse businesses. In some businesses, I have found the managers, the owners, to be autocratic, the bossy one. I have also worked in those companies where the senior managers, the owners are very flexible, and they allow, and they have delegated the decision making to the subordinate managers. So what kind of management, what kind of governance system is in place in the organization? Autocratic? Is it democratic? Leadership style, management philosophy, the decision-making process, the value and ethics. Value and ethics, they do not exist in the world. That's my belief. I have worked in many companies, and I was just looking for, maybe just in one company, I could just find an iota of ethics. Unfortunately, and I am not happy to tell you that I did not find the values and ethics in any business I worked. That's a fact. You must accept this fact. Values and ethics, they look good on the page. They look nice on your corporate reports. But in reality, ethics, well, just a word, unfortunately. So management operating style, their operating philosophy, their decision-making process, so-called ethics. And this is one important concept I would like to explain. And this should exist in most of the businesses. Your remuneration should be linked to the value creation. If your business has performed well, reward CEO. If your marketing team has performed well, they have created value, reward your sales team. So your remuneration, your reward must be linked with the value creation. This is important. This should be the cornerstone of your governance system. Well performers, those who have done well, they must be rewarded. So remuneration and value creation, they must be linked. This is important, and that's what you should address in your integrated report. I'm sure you will see in that IDLC integrated report that they have linked value creation with the remuneration. If CEO is able to increase the market capitalization by 30%, then he should be rewarded accordingly. Remuneration should be based upon the performance, the value created. Okay, so that's the point. The third question is the business model. Business model, what is business model? Business model shows how an organization will make money, how a business will generate profit through customers in a particular market. How your business will function, how will you make money, how will you survive, how will you make money, profit through customers in a specific market. That's business model. So what is the organizational business model? Who are the critical stakeholders that you need to satisfy? Stakeholders, all of them are important, but some are more important than others. Like shareholders, those who have invested, they are more important than the other stakeholders. So who are the key stakeholders? So who are the key stakeholders, critical stakeholders that you need to report in the business model related question? Then question number 4, risk and opportunities. What are the specific risks and opportunities that affect the organization's ability to create benefit over the short term, over the medium term, and over the long term, and how is the organization dealing with them? So what are the risks a business is facing? Internal risk, external risk, how material are the risks, and how business is going to cater for the risk, how we are going to manage risk. There are 5 responses to risk a business might face. Either we will say, okay, we'll see. This is called the risk acceptance. Then there's another response where we deliberately, by choice, we love risk. We would like to take more risk because we believe higher the risk, higher is going to be your return. So this is called risk exploitation. So this could also be one of the risk responses. Third could be risk sharing, where you enter into a collective agreement where you share the risk with your customers, bankers, or suppliers, or employees, whoever is it, counterparty. Risk sharing, or sometimes also called the risk transfer. This could be the third response to managing risk. Then we take certain steps to reduce risk. This is called risk mitigation. We take certain steps. We design strong system of internal control so we can reduce risk. Risk mitigation or risk reduction is the same. And finally, Khalli Wali. Khalli Wali means risk avoidance. Do not indulge in the activity that has risk in it. So any of these options or any of these risk strategies could be taken for different types of risk. Some of the risk you might accept, some of them you might share, some of them you might mitigate, or some of them you totally avoid. And how do we decide what you should do? There is a proper risk matrix which we will study in your CMA Part 2, Section D, Risk Management. So that's what businesses should do. They need to see what are the risks they are facing and how they are managing it. What are their risk responses? Question number 5. Strategy and resource allocation. Where does the organization want to go? Of course, vision. And how does it intend to get there? What are our objectives? What are our goals we want to achieve? And how do we measure to what extent have we been able to achieve those goals? I remember when we started FCC more than 10 years ago, we had this in mind that since CMA is a global certification, some point in time we will go beyond the geographical boundaries of Pakistan. We knew that. So that was our vision. And how did we reach you? We don't have physical setups in different. We are in more than 25 countries. FTC student base is scattered over 25 countries. So we don't have physical campuses there. So we wanted to go global. But how did we go there? We used these facilities, Android application, the Zoom. Before Zoom, we were using another interactive online service. So this is how business need to answer this. Where the organization want to go, what are the objectives, and how would we get there, and how do we measure that did we achieve what we wanted to? Have we been successful? If I ask myself, has FTC been able to achieve what it wanted to? Yes, we have been. What we thought we will, we have. This is what you need to answer in your integrated report. Then the 6th question is, to what extent has the organization achieved its strategic objectives for the period, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and what are the outcomes in terms of effects on the capital? You might have set certain objectives. How those objectives, if you have achieved those objectives, how these objectives have affected those 6 capitals or some of those capitals which are relevant for your business. You need to disclose that in your integrated report. Then question number 7, outlook. This question is about what challenges and uncertainties is the organization likely to encounter in pursuing its strategy, and what are the potential implications for its business model and future performance. What are the challenges and uncertainties? How do you see the future to unfold itself? And how are you going to react to that? Do we have the strategy to manage uncertainties? Have we been doing the risk management so as to identify what are the organization's vulnerabilities What are our weak areas and how are we going to manage such challenges and uncertainties? You need to answer this question. See, such information was not present and is not present in your conventional financial reports and your corporate social responsibility reports. That is the reason your integrated reporting, it is beyond your financial reporting and corporate social responsibility. This is much bigger. You can say integrated reporting goes beyond some of these two. Then question number 8. Basis of preparation and presentation. The question is, how does the organization determine what matters to include in the integrated report? How do you decide what should I include in the integrated report? And how much matters quantified or evaluated? So what is the basis that will help you decide what you're going to include? So for this we have a materiality threshold, a materiality matrix, a certain mechanism that will help us decide that these are the relevant material information which we should include, and they may be positive and negative, but these are the items that have very little significance and they have very little influence on the capital, so let's omit them, right? So, and how do we decide them? Since I told you that integrated reporting is a new discipline, so we do not have some established yardstick benchmarks that help us guide what we should include and what we should not include. So it's totally intuitive process in which we decide what are the information elements that we need to include in our integrated report. And finally, the 9th one basically is not a question. We discussed that there are 9 content elements given in the form of question, but this 9th one basically, it is not a question. It is just general information given to you explaining how the process should be conducted, how the capitals are to be disclosed, how materiality is to be determined, basic ideas. As I told you, integrated reporting is more of principle based that guides you rather than the rule based approach that we have in the US GAAP. So this is the last point where we are given just simple guidelines how to prepare your integrated report. So this 9th point is not basically a question, it's just an information that is essential for preparing integrated report. So guys, that completes your 6.3. Please read this very well. I think we have 14 questions related to 6.3, the topic we just covered. And we have a last very tiny topic, your 6.4, hardly 3 slides to it. So we are going to wind up your integrated reporting tomorrow. And tomorrow we are closing up your financial reporting section A.